Well, I can tell you this is completely unexpected. Never in my wildest dreams I thought I would be here in Leith reading poetry. And the first person I want to thank actually is Mrs. Connell. Now Sue Connell, now who's taken her former name, family name Edwards, Susan Edwards. She was our teacher. Several of us here were in her classes, and it was Sue Connell, Mrs. Connell, that introduced us, and myself in particular, to poetry and really stirred my imagination. And then we lost track of each other, obviously. And about 5 years ago, out of the blue, I get an email, and it's from Susan Edwards. Who's this Susan Edwards? Well, it was Sue Connell, living in Vancouver, and she had read about a hockey player, Lance Bouma, they call him, played for Calgary Flames, and he thought, is this Lance related to Jerry? Well, I know that family, but no, not related, but it could be. I said no, and we reconnected. And so we sent the odd email back and forth, and I gathered some writings over the years, and finally I sent some to her, and she said, this is pretty good. I sent her some more, and she says, this is really good. And she said, well, why don't you put together an assembly? So suddenly this spring, and I'm going to introduce a bunch of people over the course of this event, some dear friends, family, and then some special friends who had influence on my life. I put together this very quickly and to be inspired on several fronts. Of course, Lee, Tom Thompson, but my kid brother, Tim, who wrote a book on Tom Thompson a couple years ago called My Last Spring. So when I started grade 9, I met Morrison and Paul and Blaine for the first time, and John, all my classmates. That's when he was born. Well, he wasn't like he used to be because he was a kid and I was in high school. But all these years later, we have a special connection. So what we're going to do here today, I'm going to read a selection of poetry, sort of in 3 phases. First, early reflections, which really speaks to Leith and growing up here in North Sydney, and the odd reference to where we lived before in Walters Falls. Then I'm going to move into what I call the Time of Day series, and then finish off with some later reflections. And we'll see how it goes, and we'll see if we should take a break and then come back again. But we'll try to go an hour or so, and then determine whether you guys are still interested in hearing more, because we have more stuff. But again, I want to thank some of the organizers, Louise Rutherford. Louise, who I haven't seen since 1969. She lived right over there, Rutherford Place. It's great to see you, Louise, and Ruth, of course. And Mr. Telford with the Leith Historical Society. Thank you for making this possible. So let's, the first thing I'd like to touch on is the title. And you're probably thinking, Beyond the Woodshed, this poor kid get dragged behind the woodshed on a regular basis? Because you heard of the expression, taken behind the woodshed. That's not what this is about at all. And let me introduce my introduction. One of my tasks as a young boy, the farm we grew up, is literally, you can see it, about a half a mile straight in that direction. One of my tasks as a young boy was to keep the woodshed closest to the stove well supplied with cut wood. We had 2 woodsheds, one a little bit further distance and one right next to the kitchen. This meant moving wood on a regular basis from a larger storage shed located further away to the woodshed near to the kitchen. It was tedious work. I did not mind the work, but while my hands and feet were in constant motion, my imagination was even busier. It never stopped. I was in a perpetual state of being beyond the woodshed. So I always say I lived a very deprived life. We were limited by duty and obligation, and we really didn't have much opportunity to socialize, and I'm quite a social creature. So I had to rely on my imagination. And so one thing that our parents, my mother particularly introduced us to was books. And she's a voracious reader. And every Saturday we go to the Old Sound Library and get a whole stack of books and read them over the course of the week. So Beyond the Woodshed, and so I'll read my first poem, which really speaks to this theme, and it's called Pillars of Wood. Now, maybe a little backdrop. When I left this community at the age of 17 and moved to Philadelphia, the contrast was great. It was a beautiful area, but it was totally different than here. And one of the things I missed was the rural community, and particularly growing up at the farm, and I'll speak to this in a few minutes, was the view. When I was at Villanova, we were surrounded by trees and hills. It was beautiful, but there was no view. You couldn't see what was coming in. And I'll speak to that. And so with that sort of contrast, I was started thinking about, I'm in the midst of this upper middle class private school, Catholics typically from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York. I'm a country boy from Grey County, and the only other country boy there was another guy in scholarship from Ireland, from Cork, also from dairy farms. We're the only two farm boys in this whole campus. And we became friends like this, and John Hartnett is one of my very best friends. So this is what happened. I started thinking about it, and I was thinking of some of the unique things that we did, and every fall after the fields were harvested and the plowing had been done and the cattle were in the barn, Father would spend a couple weeks in the bush. We had two lovely bush lots, one near the front of the road and one a little back further. So pillars of wood. We are few, we pillars of wood, who sawed and split the straighter limbs and sweat as men once could. We are strong, we hunters of wood, who eyed and mark our target trees, our noble task well understood. Alas, our wood can no more match the grandeur of gas and oil, but those have lost forevermore the joys of piling wood. We have seen the flickering sun through dying leaves and naked limbs, and felt the cold winds come. We have shaped these forest trails that lead us to our place of toil, where now the squirrels run. Our stacks of wood now wait the call of winter's desperate chill. Our stoves be full, our hearts be warm, from joys of piling wood. So that was